esta pena ya dejemos ya.
I want to submit an article from Reuters today to the record entitled, U.S. Senators Force Migrant Children to Take Drugs. Mr. Speaker, immigrant children, quoting from this article, are being forcibly given a range of psychotropic drugs at U.S. government-funded youth shelters. Taking multiple psychotropic drugs can seriously injure children. And many youths in Shiloh detention facility are being given 9 different pills in the morning, 6 in the evening. You're paying for them all, Mr. Speaker. Taxpayers are paying for pills and injections and drugs for 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds that have been stripped from their parents. One mother said she nor any other family member had even been consulted about their daughter being given powerful drugs. Many kids are being held down, forcibly given injections when they refuse to take medication that our tax dollars are paying for. We need to stop this, Mr. Speaker. You don't need a bill to stop it. President Trump needs to stop it. He wasn't doing it until 90 days ago. Then he started to do it. It's not the will of Congress. It's not the letter of the law. It is a policy that is un-American and far outside the intent of Republicans or Democrats in this body.
Well, it's come to fruition. You know, the Creator's really here today. And, you know, I've been sending you guys prayers. I think you saw my last show on what I'm trying to iterate. But, you know, that was there with the immigrants. And, you know, that's the discussion they were having on using these psychotropic drugs that, you know, I've brought this for years since they did this to my son. And, you know, they did it to Mary Jane's son and Sarah's son. But now this is being addressed, and we need to move this into what the president is calling for a public health state of emergency. This isn't a public health state of emergency. This is now being called a crime against humanity. Those children were brought over here and put on psychotropic drugs. As to what reason why, we went out there to Shiloh because we wanted to speak to some of the people, but they didn't show up there. They were all down there on the border trying to steer away from. Let you watch this.
Stars are speaking out on President Donald Trump's controversial zero-tolerance immigration policy that has resulted in a reported 2,000 children being separated from their parents at the U.S.-Mexico border during a 6-week period in April and May. Chrissy Teigen and John Legend were 2 of the first celebs to voice their outrage, penning a letter they shared via Instagram on the president's birthday last week. Quote, John and I are outraged to see and hear the horror stories of immigrant families seeking asylum and refuge in America being ripped apart due to the inhumane policies of the Trump administration. Sarah Bareilles also took to social media, tweeting, quote, this is beyond inhumane. On Father's Day, Anne Hathaway captioned this shot, "My dad and I are disgusted and rocked to our core by the current administration's shocking decision to separate asylum-seeking immigrant families, the consequence of which is creating orphans with living parents." Sophia Bush encouraged her followers to take action, tweeting, "Call your senators." Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel wrote, quote, "I hope that our president and his minions remember that children should be with their parents, not in detention centers." Reese Witherspoon called the policy cruel and immoral and deplorable. Alyssa Milano said the fight for humanity is on. And Ellen DeGeneres tweeted, "I don't care what your politics are, we can't be a country that separates children from their parents."
They didn't show up, and we thought they would be there because this is one of the most important changes in our judicial system ever in America's history. We have to acknowledge that this process is also being done to our children on what I brought you. American children are being put on psychotropic drugs, and it needs to be a part of the public health state of emergency President's declared. And even what I showed you on the last show, when the First Lady had addressed being best for our children's initiative. And we're having those kids that are addicted to these opioids because on our case study, even with Prozac, one of the psychotropics showing in the lab studies we had gotten from the university there in Florida for our veterans when we were doing our veterans initiative, showed that Prozac would make a rat eat its hands off. And yet we're using these psychotropic drugs in our system to what it showed, what was covered up there during the session. You know, we had taken it to Senator Menendez and even prior to Senator Vanderpute when we had the bill passed, Senate Bill 1356. I thought I brought that to you when the governor passed it. And if that's all being done, why are we still having this process? I know that they're appealing the decision we won as advocates for humanity when we joined children's rights there in Corpus Christi for the 12,000 kids. And then was what I thought I brought to you on why, or what happened with Sarah and what she had to endure. Let me let you watch this. Of this land, as far as to bring the healing. We have a holistic ways, and you know that's sort of what we have with the ESP project, and what we're asking the governor to meet with us to bring in what is happening or what we're in fear of maybe happening. You know, one of the young ladies' son that I have attached to the psychotropic and restraints and solitary confinement is causing suicide. In the federal court is Sarah. And, you know, she's similar to Mary Jane, another Native American that's... And I'm praying that the governor gives her back her son. You know, they took this mentally retarded child without acknowledging his mental capacity. And she had taken the records and had it there, but, you know, the way the system works, any way they can get him on these antidepressants, so he ended up in the juvenile, put on psychotropics, and the short time that he did get out, because he spent 3 years in isolation, and they did a documentary on him. And, you know, yesterday she called me, and she's scared he might commit suicide. They moved him to the psych ward last night. And you know, the damages that are done, but then not to get any help or not even to think that, you know, I don't know if it was similar, but he does have, and she had all the records, but every attorney, as to where, like my attorney, wouldn't get the records to get him into where you're going to help him. We have a justice system that we're supposed to be rehabilitating, but helping. But if you're the one that's guilty of doing this to children as a process of justice, which is what seems like, you know, when that was the highest rate here, it was Senator Menendez. I took my case study to with the Casey Foundation for the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, and he did not want to take that language to protect those children on the west side of San Antonio whose minds were being altered. That was very, very specific on that. 70% of them, that man killed his father, and yet he's not going to say that. And then when the decision with the judge, I see him going to Sister Chavez March, and I ask him, well, what's the decision now? can you do something? Can you ask the governor to cease and desist the use of these psychotropics? Because it's showing it's a crime. That's what the judge ruled. But, after that riot in Giddings, I thought, some of the families reached out to Mary Jane's, Texas families of incarcerated youth, and they're charging the children with inciting a riot. And so we wanted to find out, how do we get protection or put a shield over them? As far as, my promise here on the day they chemically altered my son, and that director for over there from the Cindy Taylor Crier said I didn't have any rights. I promised then to wear this armor and shield until I eradicate, the uses of restraints and isolation and psychotropics. And restraints and isolation are gone, and we're on this mission for a reason. December, I had reached out to Senator John Whitmire's office, and I had asked his legislative director, to where I've tried to get the case study, everybody interim to Lawrence Coleman. She endured this, and she called me last night, and she's crying because she's in fear of what these psychotropics are doing, and they don't have anything in the system to help you with this. Not even when you're coming out, there's no reentry program on dealing the damages that are done. That's why we're having these people appeal this. Appeal what the governor said. I have the letter that he sent to Commissioner Specia. Governor Abbott said it's the duty of all Texans to protect Texas children, and to protect Texas children, especially from abuse and neglect, under the care umbrella of the state of Texas. He's had a lot of compassion, and what he did when we tried to bring the healing for the children, as far as the medical marijuana for the epilepsy, we need to expand that, and we need to bring our indigenous healing remedies into the judicial today. This damage is going to destroy us. I mean, these are American children. This is our future we're talking about. And progging with these psychotropic drugs, we have to acknowledge this liability and start bringing in remedies to get a resolve as to what the president's asking for. He's declared this a public health state of emergency. When you look at where the opioids come from, as far as having to self-medicate, I've got them sleeping on the west side under bridges. And they have nowhere to go, because I went to Commissioner Atkinson, I went with Tommy Calvert, I went to Shirley Gonzalez and talked to all of them. I even went to the meeting that Commissioner Calvert had here with the reentry program, Ms. Jordan, and nobody can touch the effects of these psychotropic drugs. There's nowhere for them to be re-entered into our system, and that's what we're trying to create there on the west side. And we're asking those that call themselves leaders, as far as this opioid crisis. When I went there to the Baptist Health Center when they had launched this campaign or this task force, and asked them to take our chronology on what we've had to work with here on the west side, on you not wanting to say, if San Antonio, Texas, west side, 78207, is identified in the session as having the highest rate of recidivism in the United States, why are we not putting that center there? It's imperative that we move to do this. And what I had brought you when we were doing it with our veterans, if our veterans can be the mentors, and what we're seeing here, even those veterans that suffer from PTSD or the damages of what they were taking, psychotropics. We had just this last couple of weeks, I think we had 4 officers assault inmates. One sexually assaulted an inmate. And we have a sheriff on the highway right here on the west side, on Highway 90, actually shoot a lady. I don't know if she died yet. I haven't been able to follow it up because I have so much going on right now in Washington, and with what we're trying to do on this opioid epidemic. We need to include our case study on what we're saying here. This is a fact. But when you start doing this to children that are coming from different countries and it's considered a crime against humanity, they're saying this is a crime against humanity. The lawsuit's been filed. They're saying that the Texas Medical Board saying they're not licensed. Why are you people making things up that's not concerning here? For some reason, I don't know where the zero tolerances is. I understand what he's saying. There should have been some type of reform here. But when you have two parties, as far as the Democrats and these Republicans, as to what I said the last time I was there about this alien issue, as to them considering it illegal as far as my people or criminal, and now animals, because I think someone said something about some animals. You know, we're indigenous people. We've had to deal with this animal mentality that's now fruitated under what we had said almost 500 years ago. How can you come here and say we're animals? We're not animals. I want you to listen to what we had said and what Mary Jane had did here when they were molesting the children, and what she's praying that all the mothers will come together and push forward with the group that we're formed here. It's the Family Forward Foundation. You can go online. We're the Family Forward Project. This is happening in America today, and I think with First Lady Melania Trump and what I showed you, Be Best for Our Children's campaign, you can go on YouTube. It's there. Let me let you watch this. Well, I still remember she said that he called her and she didn't answer, and she's got to live with that. But that's sort of keeping me on my mission, you know, as far as my mission continuing and some of the other reports I've done and the work that I did as the founder of a Father's Initiative that started back when I had joined, and they had chemically altered my son's mind when I went there at the Cindy Taylor Cryer Center in San Antonio, that they're covering up here in Bexar County. They're covering up in legislation by not wanting to say what they're doing to the children in the juvenile system. Back in 2002, there was two young ladies I was honored to join forces with. There's two angels were sent to end the molestation and what they were doing to the kids in the juvenile system. Was TYC then. It's no longer TYC after the work they've done. And you know, I'm honored to have Mary Jane and Diane as, you know, two of the warriors on this war of injustice against the indigent or indigenous, you know, because we're Native Americans. Actually, all three of us are. And as far as the coming together on wanting to make the changes, and why I've authored the ESP project. But she went to legislation and brought the awareness with you know, Senator Hinojosa. They even had the attorneys, as they had in my son's case in 2009, with Mrs. Wilkerson and her group, and David Riley and all of them, on the same thing that was becoming what we're trying to bring this to you on. Why, you know, on the review, on the reports closer to home, you know, 2007 she had testified, and you know, what she had said there for those children made great changes, and bills were passed. And I mean, I have all the information. If you guys want it, I can get you all that. And we tried to keep that in there, even when I had gone back in 2013 with Senator Vanderpute, when we had worked to advocate for what they had did to my son. He was trying to help the kids that were medicated, and the mod leaders, or actually the veterans or the guys that work in the facilities, didn't really have or couldn't help them because they don't know how to help someone that's withdrawing from psychotropics. This is a prayer from every mother in Texas that the president abolishes psychotropics against American children. Just abolish it. There's no partnership that's keeping our community safe with psychotropic drugs. And who's ever signed this, let them be held accountable for going against the Creator's will. These are His children. These are His children. These aren't your children. You don't have the authority. But what you've done here and what we're enduring in our society has fruitated into, these immigrants came from Honduras, suffering from whatever's taken over Honduras, as far as even what my veterans had to deal with. They got abandoned in Afghanistan when they're subsidizing opioids. They're burning fields. I got 500,000 veterans in the jails and prisons or homeless because they got bad conduct discharges, and now we can't help them. That's part of the reentry on what we're trying to get here as a resolve. We gave this city to sustain President Obama's Brothers Keepers initiative to where some coconut we don't call Mayor Taylor. We call her Poison Ivy. She's poison to our city, and they know that they have our plan. We asked them to meet with us because we had so many homeless. We gave them the tapes there on the west side over on Martin Street by Stella's. That little girl's pregnant. She had that, still wouldn't meet with us. Well, it's not going down, it's going up because we got more and more kids coming out of prison, as to what the judge said, not functional. He's declared this a public health state of emergency. We need you to go ahead and call these people. Menendez had the bill. It said right there, they've already decided in the foster care system. But this isn't just foster care. This is foster care, this is juvenile, this is child protective services. Are you serious? The opioids aren't the problem here. You know, it's adverse effects of what you're doing to a child's mind. I mean, if we're having studies saying Prozac's making a ratty's hands off, where are you making our community safe? You know, and even what we said to her then, you know, these are children, but these are American children, and this is supposed to be our future. So this is my coming together, you know. I remember even growing up, because none of this stuff was here when we were growing up. I don't know how they took over our society, but we know that they tried to get rid of a vast amount of, I mean, I think about that deal that the Koreans did with Trump. Now they're saying they're still arming the nuclear. Did he give them the green button to do whatever they're going to do? If we don't wake up and stand up for our rights today, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. But he's at least brought it to the forefront. And we need to have them acknowledge, call your representatives here throughout the United States and ask them, we're not doing this to American children, are we? Because we are. So we have remedies. You know, we're asking them to meet with us so we can bring a healing. And it's time. So please, thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4. Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. Oh, it's not the answer, for only love can conquer. Punish me with brutality. Talk to me, honey, so you can see what's going on. What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. Woo! Come on, man. Woo! what's going on, baby. Yes, I want to know, yeah, what's going on right now, people. Oh, 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 what's going on, brother? Tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me, yeah, what's going on? Yeah. Bring it down a little bit, Eddie. Yeah. A little bit, right there. Here we go. Here we go. Hey, baby, what you know good? I'm just getting back what you knew I would. Boys, hey, when will it end? When will people start getting together again? Things will get better. The newspaper read. What else is new, my friend? Besides what I read. Can't find no work, can't find no job, my friend. Money is tighter than it's ever been. Woo! Hey man, I just don't understand what's going on across this land. Ah, what's happening, brother? Hey, what's happening? I wanna know, I wanna know. Things still getting down when we used to go and dance. Now I'm up when I'm finished. You think they have a chance? And tell me, friend, how in the world have you been? Tell me what's out, I wanna know what's in. Woo! What's the deal, man? What's happening? What's happening, brother? What's happening, brother? I wanna know what's happening. What's happening, my man? Been gone a long, long time. Now I'm back on the scene. What's happening, brother? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?